Let's go. Hey everyone, I am MSK, aka Master Swag King, coming at you guys today with another video. And if you guys are returning viewers or new viewers, then please consider subscribing to the channel if you have not already. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it and comment down below. Also, make sure you guys hit the notification bell. That way you guys can get notified on whenever I upload a brand new video or go live. And in today's video, we are going to be talking about Venom: The Last Dance, the newest movie release within the Sony's Spider-Man universe, which began back in 2018 with the release of Venom, which went on to gross over $800 million at the worldwide box office. The 2018 Venom movie, being a smash hit at the worldwide box office, signaled to Sony that people wanted Spider-Man villain movies without Spider-Man, and they ended up creating a shared cinematic universe as a result of the 2018 Venom movie doing very, very well at the worldwide box office. Now, that was obviously one of the stupidest ideas Sony could do, was create a shared cinematic universe based around Spider-Man's villains without Spider-Man. Because the reason why this movie did as well as it did was because Venom is an extremely popular character which has direct ties to Spider-Man, even more so than other villains he has in his rogues gallery. Now, other Spider-Man villains are somewhat decently popular among like people that read comic books, but if you ask like average people, the other movies that they released within this universe, people aren't going to know who these characters are outside of like maybe one or two, and that's being generous if that. Sony basically saw that all of these superhero and comic book movies were doing very well at the box office, and it was mostly just the MCU. DC would have a hit every now and again, and they realized that they could just basically put out a bunch of cash grab movies and people would just go watch them because they have the Marvel logo as these movies credits play before the film. And they realized that people basically would just kind of flock to the theaters and watch superhero movies. But then things started shifting. Superhero movies basically took a downturn in quality, and this universe never started out good, nor is it probably going to end off with anything, because in 2024, you know, the state of superhero slash comic book movies is very bad, because in 2024 we've gotten Madam Web, Venom: The Last Dance, which I haven't seen yet, and I will go hopefully to the theaters and see it to make my own opinion, obviously, and then Kraven the Hunter. Yes, so to basically end off 2024, we've gotten 3 Sony's Spider-Man universe movies. Thank God 2025 is around the corner, so we cannot have to look at these abominable movies ever again. So we have Venom, Venom Let There Be Carnage, Morbius, Madam Web, Venom: The Last Dance, and Kraven the Hunter. There's already early reports of them basically rebooting this movie, a shared cinematic universe. I don't know what you're rebooting. Doesn't make any sense because there's nothing to reboot, because there's nothing salvageable in these movies. They're bad. Morbius might have been one of the greatest movies released because of the memes and jokes alone. And there's a reason why only the Venom movies have been somewhat decently box office earners for Sony and this universe, because Venom is a popular character. But the first 2 Venom movies, as you guys can see, as I pointed out in other videos talking about this universe and why it's just dog shit, the international audience has always carried these movies. Look at that discrepancy. Look at that right there. I was going to say discrepancy, but look at that big difference right there. $642 million for an international pull for the 2018 Venom movie. Probably also helped that Eminem put out the Venom song, which, as you guys know, he had some decent influence back then. Not so much now with all these celebrities and musicians in Hollywood, given their recent meltdowns over Donald Trump winning the 2024 presidential election. And you saw Venom: Let There Be Carnage made $300 million less than its predecessor, and still obviously carried by the international audience. Not as much though, but it's still a decent like $80 million difference there. So I talked about Venom: The Last Dance in week one for its box office opening weekend worldwide, and it did actually overperform what I initially thought it was actually going to be at. Now, the thing here to understand that a lot of you guys took away from that video was that you basically saw me admit I was wrong. And I was wrong. I didn't think this movie was actually going to do that well at the box office, given the fact that the word of mouth around the other two was actually pretty bad. But those are movies that people, if you really read between the lines, people are basically saying those movies are so good, so bad they're good. And those movies tend to be hit or misses at the box office now as well, because movies tend to not do as well at the box office now, as you guys know. So the thing here to really understand is, can Venom 3 even do us half as good as Venom 2? So, and in this video, as you guys know, later on, I'm going to be talking about week 2's performance for Venom: The Last Dance, and then I'll also be going over week 3 as well, and then I'll be going over the total amount of money it's made at the box office. Now, this movie has made more money, because I said in week 2, this movie's going to have to pull in some pretty good money with the box office drop it's going to have. But also keep in mind this, everybody. Right now, when this movie has been released, there's not really much other competition out there. I mean, you have The Wild Robot, you have, I think, a new Tom Hanks movie coming out. There's a few other movies that are going to come out, but they're not going to be like big box office draws. As you know, the age of the movie star is over, and people just don't go to the theaters because there's a movie star they like him anymore. Very few movie stars even have that kind of draw anymore. So people need to also keep in mind, Venom: The Last Dance has a budget of $120 million. Now, that's before marketing, right? So a big blockbuster tentpole like Venom: The Last Dance probably has a marketing budget. I'm just making this up. These big blockbuster tentpoles usually have very big marketing budgets, probably around like $60 to $80 million. So it probably puts it in a $200 million range. So the movie would have to make like, what, $800 million just to be a profitable venture. You could lowball it like other people like to do with, because, well, the reason why they lowball is because they don't know movie math like I do. And keep in mind, it's not just like you're releasing your movie in just America. No, you release it through a distribution. That costs a lot of money. Theaters take their cuts. International theaters take their cut. Like, that's why these big blockbuster tentpoles, like I always say, have to make a lot of money, because there is a lot of hands in these cookie jars, okay? So let's start it here, and then let's work our way up to talking about where the movie's box office is currently at, because the next big movie coming out is Sonic 3, which I will be watching in theaters, and you will definitely see an episode of Full Dave going to the movie theater on that. I might be able to go to the theater and see this movie, or at least The Wild Robot. So expect an episode of Full Dave going to the movie theater, either this movie or something else in the theater that I'll watch before Sonic 3. Box office. Venom 3 keeps #1 spot with reassuring second week drop. Tom Hanks' Forrest Gump reunion movie backfires despite $45 million budget. Here has severely underperformed at the box office, while Venom: The Last Dance has had a reassuringly solid second weekend. Here, which takes place in a single home and follows the life of a family across multiple generations, reunites with director Robert Zemeckis, with Forrest Gump screenwriter Eric Roth, and co-stars Tom Hanks and Robin Wright. The new movie's opening weekend is competing with the second weekend of Venom: The Last Dance box office, which debuted with $51 million and earned by a significant margin the worst opening weekend of the 3-movie Tom Hardy superhero franchise. Yes, so Venom: The Last Dance actually massively underperformed domestically, but did well internationally, like I showed you guys how the other two movies have did. So Venom: The Last Dance week 1 domestically only took in like 50-something million, like $51 million, right? And then internationally, the movie managed to take in like $120 million, absolutely carried by its international box office. Per Variety, as of Sunday morning, Venom: The Last Dance is projected to earn a 3-day total of roughly $26.1 million, which represents a 49% drop from its opening weekend. This drop is much better than initial expectations for the movie, which earned a dismal 39% score on Rotten Tomatoes. In fact, it is significantly better than the original 2018 Venom, which debuted with 80.2 million and previously had the lowest drop of the trilogy, falling 56.4% in its second weekend. This will allow The Last Dance to maintain its number one position at number one on the domestic chart for the second weekend in a row. Meanwhile, here is only projected to gross a 3-day opening weekend total of $5 million, a total that will see it debut at number 5 on the chart. This debut comes in lower than the movie's initial $7 million projections, which were already significantly beneath its $45 million budget, which likely necessitates an overall gross of 112.5 million or more in order for it to break even. Like, look at it right there. This movie right here with Tom Hanks, a movie's budget at $45 million. They even said it right here. It needs 112 to break even, okay? Now that's before any marketing. Now, I've not heard of this movie at all, and I don't even have ad blockers on. They've not marketed this movie well at all. And look at what this movie's competing with. Venom: The Last Dance did very well for week 2. And despite having that drop, The Wild Robot is still doing pretty well, and you have Smile 2. There's not much competition here, if we're being completely honest. But it doesn't matter, because the age of the movie star is over. Although Venom's hold is very admirable, the chart's most dazzling week-on-week performance comes from the Wild Robot release. The animated movie has been slowly and steadily becoming a major hit, and it has continued this trend in week 6 by rising 11% in a shock return to number 2, after falling to number 3 the previous weekend. Meanwhile, Smile 2 has slipped from number 2 to number 3 with a slim 29% drop, while Conclave has only fallen one slot with an even better 20% drop. Well, the reason why Smile 2 most likely fell off, at least from like where it was at, is because that movie is a horror movie and it was also released in October. So after October is over, people don't have that kind of itch to go to the box office to watch horror movies. I'm not saying that's not always the case, but when you have a horror movie released in October and it's released in a week that's like before Halloween ends, it only does well for that small period. Then usually after that, it kind of just fizzles out. But right now, since there's no competition, it's still able to do well. With only one new release charting this weekend, there hasn't been much in a shift in the titles on the top 5. However, the romance We Live in Time, which spent last weekend at number 5, did have to exit in order to make room for Here, dropping 28% with a 3.46 million haul, landing in at number 6. The excellent week-on-week hold of every holdover title on the chart seems to be in large part a result of Here's underperformance, as the other new releases played in a more limited theaters and posed less of a draw for general audiences. Oh, good lord. The projections for the weekend reveal that Venom: The Last Dance is showing signs of life after its debut turned out significant diminishing returns. Not only did it beat the original's movie drop, it is a significant improvement on the most recent installment, 2021's Let There Be Carnage, which fell more than 60% in its second weekend, losing its number 1 slot to the James Bond sequel, No Time to Die. Below, see a breakdown of the box office performance of both of the previous installments and the Tom Hardy franchise. So yeah, we already know these numbers as I showed you before. It remains to be seen if The Last Dance can match either of the previous Venom movies, as their debuts gave them significant head starts. However, the fact that the original movie debuted lower than its sequel, but climbed to a higher overall total off the back of a solid weekend to drop, means that the new movie could become a sleeper hit. If it keeps its momentum up on its current trajectory, it could gross more than $540 million, beating Let There Be Carnage and passing its break-even point, which is likely $300 million, considering its $120 million budget. But what this doesn't factor in is marketing. So it says it needs $540 million to break even, so that means that Let There Be Carnage with this number only broke even, which is, I mean, pretty obvious. because if $800 million is profitable, then anything less than that's pretty just break even, right? While the here release could very well drop from the top 5 entirely in its second weekend, Venom the Last Dance has a chance of maintaining a strong chart position for the next few weeks given its reassuring audience hold. If it continues to drop at this rate, it could provide major competition for the number 1 spot in its third weekend as well. The weekend's new release slate doesn't feature any major tentpoles, but rather titles such as A24's Hugh Grant horror thriller Heretic and the Anthony Mackie monster movie Elevation, which has had a relatively quiet rollout. Yeah, a lot of these movies are not marketed very well. You don't hear about any of them constantly, ever, and people kind of wonder why the movies don't do so well. Also, it's not just because of marketing. Like, movies just do very bad at the box office now. Ever since, like, the virus, it really does feel like movies are just struggling to grab any audience at all. And this was the case for movies in the past as well, but never this bad. Like, I truly don't know how this can ever really recover. So I actually messed up here. I was supposed to have this article up. It actually does nothing for the video overall, so we're just gonna go to the next one. So what Venom 3's box office means for Sony's next 2024 Marvel movie. So they're basically saying just because Venom 3 might do well at the box office, that automatically means that Kraven the Hunter would do well at the box office. No, that's bullshit. Several reasons why. First of all, no one's talking about Kraven the Hunter, even though its cast is pretty stacked if you really look at it, right? The Venom movies will always, in my opinion, be the movies in that universe that gross the most money. You can see it from the other releases as well. Morbius did fuck all. Madam Web did fuck all. These movies are just basically just jokes, honestly. Have you guys went to the trailer comment section for this movie? It's the same thing like Morbius. It's an absolute joke. I would be absolutely surprised if this movie came out and it wasn't just meme to death like Morbius. Now, if it's actually a decent, serviceable comic book movie, then it might turn out differently. But I'm being honest here, I have no hope for movies released in this universe. They're always dog shit. Sony has one more Marvel movie set to release in 2024. Yeah, DC put out 3 of them in 2023, all bombed, and it's looking like Sony's gonna take that mantle up this year. And Venom the Last Dance's box office could illustrate how successful the studio's next film could be. The Sony Spider-Man universe movie roster has been a mixed bag since 2018's Venom. Yes, and keep in mind, this universe also had other movie projects announced for it. Like, there's supposed to be 2 villain movies. El Muerto, which is a character that's he appears in a Spider-Man comic, but he was supposed to be portrayed by this person named Bad Bunny, this musician or whatever. And then you had the Spider-Man villain like Hypnotic, was supposed to be portrayed by the black guy who's playing Lando and Han Solo, right? That fell through. So all the other announced stuff has just fallen through, right? None of its films are critical darlings, but audiences enjoy the Venom series, and the franchise has experienced international success. Just the Venom movies. The same can't be said about Madam Web and Morbius, 2 box office bombs that failed to land with audience and critics. Currently, the Venom films have been the live-action universe's only real success, and that really can kind of just be attributed toward the first Venom film because Leatherby Carnage probably just broke even, if we're being honest. So that's not really a success, right? However, Venom 3 is the final film in the Tom Hardy trilogy, meaning it appears the Sony Spider-Man universe can't rely on the franchise moving forward. Its next film is Kraven the Hunter, starring Aaron Taylor Johnson in the titular role. Kraven's success could be significant for Sony as it decides what to do with its Spider-Man characters moving forward. They only put out movies to keep the rights to Spider-Man. That's the only reason why they do it. It's hard to predict whether Kraven the Hunter will be a box office hit. It won't. And if it is a hit, I'll admit I'm wrong. But Venom 3's box office performance suggests the upcoming film has a chance. Not really, because Venom 3 is also not doing as well as the other 2 did. Venom 3 didn't have a great start, earning $51 million domestically in its opening weekend, performing well under expectations. It was also the lowest debut for any film in the Venom trilogy. However, the film is holding up better than expected in its second weekend. It topped the weekend box office charts again, earning $26.1 million. It experienced a 49% drop from its opening weekend, which is not bad for a superhero film. It's also performing well overseas with a total of $317 million worldwide. Yeah, it had a massive jump between week 1 to week 2, which is good. It actually needs that. And it's on pace to pass Venom Let There Be Carnage's worldwide total. Venom, The Last Dance's box office proves that Sony's Spider-Man universe isn't dead yet. Oh no, it is. If the Venom movies are the only outlier there, then the movie universe is dead. Because no one cares about anything else beside these movies, and these movies aren't good anyway. While Venom 3 isn't a critical darling, with a 40% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes, its second weekend underlines that there is still an audience for these films. People want to see the Venom films, and they even have a strong audience worldwide. That's true. I can't disagree with that. It also means Madame Web's and Morbius' negative effect on Sony didn't do enough to tarnish the Venom films. Yeah, because this universe has no connectivity whatsoever. Morbius kind of does, but I haven't seen Madame Web, and neither do I care to see it at all. However, it is unclear if the reputation of those releases could prevent audiences from seeing Kraven the Hunter. I predict the movie does. No, I'm pretty sure it just bombs opening weekend, honestly. I have no hope for this film. Unless you're like some horny, 40-year-old white lady, then you're fucking only watching this, honestly. So, that's what I think personally. Man, look at all these great ads here. Don't you just love ads, guys? It adds to life. I'm just a terrible joke. While the Venom films have established an audience, Venom 3 is also benefiting from a relatively lack of competition. Its main competitors are The Wild Robot, which took second place in its second weekend, and Smile 2. Kraven the Hunter doesn't have the same luck. It releases in the middle of the holiday season on December 13th and is competing with several heavy hitters. The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim debuts on the same day, and Mufasa, The Lion King, and Sonic the Hedgehog 3 premiere the following week. I'm going to be completely honest here. I don't know how this Lord of the Rings animated movie... No, this is the live-action one. I don't know if it's animated or the live-action one. Personally, this is a live-action one. I don't know how these will do at the box office, because there hasn't been a Lord of the Rings film theatrical release since the last Hobbit movie. And the previous Lion King movie did very well at the box office, but people really didn't like it. As you saw, the word of mouth was very bad. And Disney actually turned off the comment section for the trailers for Mufasa the Lion King. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 will be the highest grossing movie in December, bar none. All of these other movies are just going to compete for second, if we're being honest here. I'm talking about before and after. When Sonic 3 comes out, it beats everything and knocks everything down. The other issue is that Kraven the Hunter is rated R, which could affect its box office. I mean, people watch Deadpool and Wolverine. I don't think that matters anymore. And they watch Joker too. The first Joker, not the second one. Since families are looking for more family-friendly entertainment around the holiday season, Venom 3 is doing well at the box office, but it's hard to know if Kraven can ride that hot streak. Kraven is a well-known name for comic book readers, but Sony's poor reputation could impact viewers' decisions. Established franchises like The Lion King, Sonic, and Lord of the Rings also could steal audiences away from this film. I think that's only going to apply for Sonic. These other ones are not as lucrative with people's, in their mindsets, not the same way Sonic is. Just pointing it out. All those movies, the way they're pointing it out is basically, well, these movies' reputations are good because it's from The Lion King and Lord of the Rings. It's no, that's actually not true at all. Another huge factor for Kraven's success is word of mouth. While critics don't love Venom 3, audiences are enjoying it, leading to a decent second weekend. The film currently holds an 81% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. This is especially notable compared to that of the prior superhero movie release, Joker Folie à Deux, which received a 32% audience score and suffered a catastrophic 81% drop in its second weekend. Kraven the Hunter could perform well in its opening weekend, but if it wants to have any legs at the box office, it needs positive word of mouth. These movies never have positive word of mouth, though. Let's be honest here. None of them have positive word of mouth at all. Ever, honestly. I would be shocked if this movie had positive word of mouth, and I'm going to be completely honest here. Venom 3's box office means nothing for this movie. Absolutely nothing. Sorry about that. I think I just closed out a tab. Sorry about that. This does nothing. This is literally nothing. Fortunately, Kraven the Hunter has a few factors that should give audiences some optimism. The film has a great cast, including Johnson, Ariana DeBose, and Russell Crowe. It is also directed by J.C. Chandor, whose filmography includes esteemed films such as Margin Call and A Most Violent Year. Kraven's R rating doesn't guarantee success, but does show that Sony is switching things up, which could also benefit the franchise. Sony may have a poor reputation, but the people involved with this film don't, and that could lead to a holiday surprise. Yeah, no. Nope. Absolutely not true. I mean, I think it might do better than Morbius and Madam Web, but I think it still flops at the box office, if you ask me. So let's go on to this next piece, which is box office. Venom 3 wins again with major domestic milestone in week 3. New A24 movie vies for number 2 over Christmas flick. Venom: The Last Dance conquers the box office again, while Heretic and The Best Christmas Pageant Ever battle for number 2. The Venom 3 release debuted at number 1 and held its position in its second weekend, besting Robert Zemeckis' Here, which stars Forrest Gump, Tom Hanks, and Robin Wright. During its third weekend, it is competing with several smaller movies, with the prominent new releases being A24's Hugh Grant-led religious horror thriller Heretic, and the holiday dramedy The Best Christmas Pageant Ever, starring Judy Greer and Pete Holmes, based on the 1972 Barbara Robinson novel of the same name. I love me some Judy Greer, and I hope her movie does well. Per Deadline, as of Saturday morning, Venom: The Last Dance is projected to take number 1 at the domestic box office with a 3-day total of $14 million during its third weekend, bringing its cumulative domestic total past both the $100 million and $110 million milestones in one fell swoop. The movie, which had a production budget of $120 million, is the 16th release of the year to cross $110 million domestic threshold, as well as the 5th to debut, with 3 consecutive weekends at number 1, after Mean Girls, Inside Out 2, Deadpool & Wolverine, and Beetlejuice. Meanwhile, it is slightly too early to tell whether the Heretic release or The Best Christmas Pageant Ever will release claim the number 2 slot. Both are projected to earn middling, but better than expected 3-day opening weekend grosses above $10 million, which should put them both on track to earn a profit in theaters. I don't think so. Movies right now are barely breaking even. Profit? Yeah, that's not happening at all. This strong third weekend for the Venom: The Last Dance's box office comes in the wake of the movie posting the third worst debut of the Tom Hardy franchise by a considerable margin. However, even though its $51 million domestic opening fell short, it only dropped 49.2% in its second weekend, which was by far the lowest frame drop of the trilogy. Its third weekend drop of roughly 46% is continuing that trend as well, landing slightly below both previous installments. Below, see a breakdown of the performance of every installment in the first 3 weeks. So this is the performance. So right here, basically, the first Venom film had the worst weekend 3 drop, as you can see. But Venom: Let There Be Carnage had the biggest second weekend drop off. And people knew that was going to happen. The trailers for Venom 2 were very bad. People did not basically trust that Sony was going to handle the Carnage character very well. And people saw the movie opening weekend and were like, you know what, fuck this. Ultimately, it seems unlikely that The Last Dance will ever close the gap enough to become the highest grossing of the Venom movies. I mean, I could have told you that for free. However, the rate at which it is growing is significantly higher than Let There Be Carnage, which was a hit with the harshest drop after its strong debut, with a worldwide gross of $325.6 million after its first full 2 weeks in theaters. The third movie has a strong chance of rising high enough to at the very least become the second highest grossing movie of the franchise. Yeah, but will it be profitable? Probably not. Although Venom: The Last Dance, Heretic, and The Best Christmas Pageant Ever are set for solid grosses through the end of their theatrical runs, they will all likely be buffeted. Buffed. Pretty sure the word is buffed. They will all be buffed off the domestic butthole. I'm just joking with you guys. Okay, I'm serious. I'm sorry. Just joking. They will all likely be, I would say, kicked off the domestic chart soon as the holiday movie season begins to heat up. Though it remains to be seen if the Chris Evans and Dwayne Johnson-led holiday action comedy Red One connects with audiences. The trailers for that movie actually look pretty fun. If I can get to the theater and do an episode of full day of going to the movie theater, I'll try and do it. It actually looks pretty fun. It seems guaranteed to take number one next. It will then be followed up by the trifecta of Wicked, Gladiator 2, and Moana 2, which are set to take over the chart for the foreseeable future. So yeah, Venom 3 doing well. Also, it's benefited for having basically no competition at all. And let's look at Box Office Mojo to see where the movie's at. So Venom 3, in its third weekend of its worldwide box office release, domestic opening weekend, $51 million. Domestically, it was a fail week one, but international box office carried it. Week two, it only dropped in the second weekend 48 something percent, and it actually went up to about $200, $300 million. It's not actually went up further past that. We've seen the movie go from 150, 120 to 150 to 329, which is very good, right? But it's still very far off from hitting Let There Be Carnage. And if it only takes in $400 million and the holiday movie season is coming very soon, it's not going to do so well, right? And we know it's going to get bumped off getting its theatrical release very soon, within about 2 or 3 weeks, right? Because of Christmas coming up, like I just mentioned before. And yeah, I think this movie's just going to bomb out at $400 million. It's not even including whatever marketing budget is attached to this film. Internationally, it did very well, and we knew international box office would carry this movie. Its current worldwide total is $329 million. So we'll see where the movie's at after this weekend ends, and I think this movie just ends up at $350 million by the time its box office life cycle's over, which would still make it a flop. $120 million, not including marketing, to just 350 or even 380 is a flop. Let There Be Carnage's $500 million was considered breaking even, and the first one had profit that it actually made for Sony. This one is looking like it's going to be a box office flop when its theatrical release is over. So yeah, just want to end up the video with this. I hope I can get to the theater and watch this movie to do an episode of Full Day going to the movie theater on it. But if not, then I'll just do it with another movie that's going to come out. I'll just do it for that. Sonic 3 is getting watched, and Red 1 is getting watched too. So those are the movies you should expect newer episodes for that series. And I just want to let you guys know, I am working on putting out consistent content for you guys. Basically, when news drops, I do the video and I put it out for you guys in a relatively short time frame. I'm going to try and get all of my news videos done before the end of the year and to knock them out even earliest going into 2025. That way you guys get consistent content that you guys can enjoy relatively all the time. So thank you guys for checking out this video. Do you guys think Venom: The Last Dance will make a profit at the box office? Do you think it will break even? Did you watch the movie? Let me know in the comment section below. I am MSK. If you guys are returning viewers or new viewers, then subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it and comment down below. Also, make sure you guys hit the notification bell. That way you guys can get notified on whenever I upload a brand new video or go live. I am MSK, aka Master Swag King, and I'm signing out, guys. See you guys later. Deuces. Peace.